Because as we sit here in 2023, exactly what I was preaching then came 100% true. I didn't know that we would all be buried in our phones while we're on the toilet, while we're in line at the restaurant, while we're at a stoplight, while we're in our pool, while we're at the beach. But we are.
My goal is to help restaurant owners finally get to where they want to go. But more than that, my goal is to find entrepreneurs within that segment that actually know what it means to hustle. That's my goal. Come on the journey with me.
So something I get asked a lot is, Matt, how did you get here today? What made you grab a hold of digital marketing in the late 90s, early 2000s? And to be quite honest, it was a freaking accident. So in the late 90s, I graduated college. I went to work in radio and TV, and then eventually into radio sales. At that same time, my dad, my brother, and myself decided to start a boat dealership online. And as I say that in 2023, thinking back to 1999, that we had the vision to create a boat dealership online, I don't know how we were that smart. It had to be a complete freaking accident. But long story short, I bought a book on how to create websites on Adobe PageMill, created a website. We launched our dealership. Within 4 months, it was a brick and mortar dealership, and the rest is history. Or was it? Let's talk about what actually got me where I am today. So around 2002, 2003, a guy named Glenn Warner was our IT company. And Glenn was the gentleman I had bought the Adobe PageMill book from, and was the guy that was coming in every month and doing all of our IT stuff. And I don't know if it still happens today, but back in the 2003, 4, 5, it was like every month we had a different virus. And one day I'm sitting there kind of joking with Glenn, kind of not joking. I said, hey dude, so just curious, are you planting these viruses on purpose so you can get a couple G's a month in IT support? And he's like, well, of course not. I'm like, all right, I knew you weren't, but part of me was like, yeah, maybe he is. I said, well, how do we fix it? Because I'm tired of every month spending $2,000 to fix these computers, from breaking. He said, well, the easiest way to do it would be to install a login credential on every computer. At that time, we had about 40 to 45 computer terminals around the building and about 20 employees that had access to them. So what we did, we let them know, hey, from now on, you got to put your username, your password. It's going to track what you're doing so we can finally find which one of you guys, girls, is downloading stupid crap that's crashing our computers. We found it. About 3-4 months later, Glenn comes to my office and plops this giant book on my desk. And I wish I had it today. I was telling my mom and dad, I wish we could find it. It's got to be in storage somewhere because it's freaking epic. Glenn said, Matt, this binder is why your dad is going to want to fire everybody, and it's what you're going to love. I'm like, what is it? My dad's like, yeah, what the hell is this? And we opened it up, and he said, this is a database of all of the traffic on your computers to the internet. And I went ahead and categorized it by the websites they're visiting. So for example, this entire category is fishing.com. These are all of the times your employees are logged into fishing.com. There's like 7 or 8 of them on it all the time. Oh, they're all fired. They're supposed to be working. And I'm like, well, tell me what fishing.com is. Of course, my dad, old school, of course, wanted to really fire him. I looked at it and said, what's fishing.com? I'd never heard of it. He's like, it's a chat room. Now, if you're younger than 30, you're wondering what a chat room is. It's a Facebook group on its own. So in this case, we had Bass Boat Central, Airstream forums, Arctic Cat ATVs, fishing.com. We had all of these chat rooms. Our employees were in all the time. And so I started looking at these and understanding why were our employees in there. They're in there because they're killing time. Just like restaurants have downtime, just like auto dealerships have downtime, boat dealerships have downtime. So our employees are in there messing around, having conversations about their passion, which makes sense because everybody we had hired at our boat dealership was passionate about fishing, hunting, ATVs, camping. That was one of the requirements. So I looked at this differently. I started checking out these chat rooms, and I found that basically all of them had these $500 to $600 packages. It was the industry standard. That, hey, for $500 a year, you're the exclusive Triton Bass Boat dealership for BassBoatCentral.com. Nobody else can have it. And back at that time, a lot of our competitors weren't even online that much. Their websites were one page, if even a website. We were pretty proactive on building an online presence. So at that point, I looked at these sites and I started buying these sponsorships. So they all had about the same rules. Number one, you couldn't sell. You had to have a link to your website. You had to have your logo. You had to have your name, and it couldn't be a name like, Matt Orange 52. It had to be Matt Plapp. I had no clue how impactful that simple website link and the rule about not selling would be. So one by one, I pulled all of our salespeople in and said, hey, question for you. I need a favor. What do you got? Well, there's this website called fishing.com. Oh yeah, I'm on it all the time. I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. Well, I need you to be on there every hour on the hour. We're the official Triton Bass Boat dealership. Can you log into the Triton group and answer any questions? We can't sell, we have to be informative. You have to change your name to your actual name, because one of our guys was like, Fat John 76 Bass Fisherman, it has to be your actual name. And then you have to have these items. Cool, no problem. The employees loved it. So about 6 months after that, we were in probably 15 to 20 of these chat rooms with employees all the time. Our online web traffic was going through the roof. We were selling a lot of boats. We grew to about 15 million a year in sales in a 2 or 3 year period. And a lot of our competitors were 2 or 3 million a year. We were selling boats nationwide, and we would get our hands slapped every once in a while because we didn't violate the manufacturer's rules, but we were kind of skirting them a little kind of gray area. But we weren't doing anything unethical. We weren't, I guess you could say selling for under the cost. We were selling things at high profit margins. We just were the most relevant and cool brand online back then. So I'm at the Yamaha dealer meeting in Nashville, Tennessee. We're at the Grand Ole Opry. A guy named Ben Jarrett walks up. I think at the time he was head of marketing for Yamaha Marine USA. And we were the number 3 Yamaha dealership at that time for outboard motors out of about 2,500. Ben walks up, he's like, Matt, I want to show you something. Yeah, cool. He goes over this little computer, pulls it out, goes to this website called Google. No lie, had no clue what Google was. Okay, types in Yamaha 4-stroke motors. Plaps Pro Outdoors comes up. I'm like, I didn't do it. He's like, Matt, you did. I'm like, I didn't do it, bro. He's like, you're not in trouble. I go, okay, I probably did it. And he's like, well, how? I'm like, I ain't got a clue. No idea. He's like, well, I need your help. I need you to figure out what you're doing online that's making these results come up. Because whatever we type in for Triton, Skeeter, Yamaha, bass fishing, your company comes up. And he said, bring it back and let us know. Because one thing I skipped over was we were part of the Yamaha Symposium 20. There were 20 Yamaha dealerships out of those 2,000 plus that got together every quarter. We were all the top dealers, top in sales, parts, service, customer service reviews. And that was one cool thing, is you had to be high on customer service reviews to get into this group. And so every quarter we would get together and we would share best practices. Yamaha would package that up in a presentation, a big binder, ship it to every dealership nationwide to try and educate those dealers to bring up the level of Yamaha dealerships, education, and customer service. So I went back, talked to Glenn Warner and said, Glenn, explain, number one, what the hell Google is, and which sounds funny to say that now, and then explain why we are above Yamaha. Well, Glenn went on to explain how all of the links that were in these chat rooms were stuffed with keywords. So today a restaurant, I tell restaurants now to say, hey, when you reply to a positive review on Google, don't just say thanks for a great review. Talk about the fact that you're an amazing restaurant in Florence, Kentucky with awesome pulled pork, brisket, grilled cheese sandwiches, and sweet potato fries. You want to stuff that with keywords that Google finds. It works. Back then it was no different. All of these posts that we were engaging in, having natural organic conversations, we're stuffing Google with keywords. We quickly became the big time person on Google. Google, we were the number 1 authority. Yamaha was here, Plaps was up here. So armed with that, we started getting published in a lot of publications. On the upper level of our office here, we've got some articles from Boat and Motor Dealer, the Cincinnati Enquirer, where I was being interviewed about our presence on the internet. Now, the cool thing about that was I skipped over this. My first 4 years out of college, I had 2 jobs. I ran the boat dealership with my brother and dad as a side hustle, still working about 40 hours a week. And then I also worked in radio advertising. And I had done a really good job of cultivating a very loyal audience of customers over 4 years. And when I left radio, I stayed in touch with a lot of them. I was still friends because I was a consultative seller. I didn't sell them radio advertising because they needed to buy my radio advertising, then I needed a commission. I sold them radio advertising if I knew it would impact their business. So flash forward to 2007, and I'm all over the place. I'm getting a lot of publicity about our impact on the internet and boat dealership and selling crap online. And all of my former radio clients are calling me up and going, hey Matt, I'll give you this, I'll give you this. Can you come over to our store and show us what a website should do? Can I buy one company landscape my house in exchange for it? And so at that point, I started getting back into my consultative selling days, and I loved it. I loved working within small businesses and helping them build out marketing plans. And I wasn't making any money because I didn't need to make money. Our dealership was doing really well. Well, 2008 came around, and I was burnt out. I hated having 40 employees. I was a terrible boss. We did some surveys. We found that everybody who had ever been fired had been hired by me. I was the common trait. And me and my dad wanted to get out of the business. My brother wasn't real happy with it either. So we decided in 2008 to get out of the boat business. Well, this little thing called the economic recession came and the housing crash and destroyed our boat dealership. We were getting out, got out a little quicker, got out with a lot less money to the tune of about $1 million less each, which is why I can relate at a high level with restaurants during the pandemic. But at that time, I had also started consulting. In the spring of 2008, I started Driven Media Solutions and also went into radio, back into radio with the Cincinnati Reds and Bengals radio network. And we had the boat dealership. It wound down, my career in marketing wound up. Where we sit today in 2023, what I was preaching back then is still relevant. You have to dominate the number one place that your customer's attention is. It's right here. It's on this device that we all call a phone, which in my opinion is not a phone anymore. It's a laptop, it's a camera, it's a video camera, it's a media center. What you can do in your phone nowadays is crazy, and it's where all of your customers' attention is at. And I can reflect back to 2008, 9, and 10, doing seminars with Constant Contact, an email marketing program. They paid us to do seminars, and I would talk about becoming relevant, I didn't realize it back then, in your customers' phones. I used to call it create your own radio station. That if you built a large enough email list, a text list, a blog following, your website traffic, LinkedIn, Facebook friends, that you had an audience that you could now leverage to market your goods. I didn't realize how right I was, because as we sit here in 2023, exactly what I was preaching then came 100% true. I didn't know that we would all be buried in our phones while we're on the toilet, while we're in line at the restaurant, while we're at a stoplight, while we're in our pool, while we're at the beach. But we are. And the great thing about it is that means your restaurant can take advantage of that. So that is my origin story. That's how the man in orange got to where he is in 2023 with working within the digital marketing world. And the biggest thing I take from all of this is staying ahead of the curve and also be willing to put yourself out there and take risks. Because back in 2009, one of the first restaurants I ever talked to about Facebook, the guy told me I was crazy. And he goes, but you know what, Matt? I like you, I know you, and I trust you. So even though I think you're a moron and that you want me to market my restaurant on this thing that my 13-year-old daughter's on, I'll trust you, have fun. Here we are, 2023. What was Facebook then is now TikTok now. And Facebook and Instagram are even more relevant. YouTube is relevant. Email, which was supposed to go away back then, is still as relevant as it was 20 years ago. What's not relevant is mass media, the newspaper. Remember the yellow pages? Direct mail? That's what we got. That's where we're at. I hope to see you in our future, and we look back in 20 years to talk about this origin story of how America's Best Restaurants became a worldwide power in helping independent restaurants tell their story. I'll see you next time.